Now let's go back to our count function now. We can do something with an if statement that we've learned in the previous lesson. We can use it to now check. So I want to check if this initial number here is divisible by 2 if it is an even number. If it's an even number, then I want to print that it's an even number. Or okay, let's just do this. We want to check if the number is already equal to 30. That is, we only want to count from 0 to 30. That is, we want to count from 0 to 30, and once it's up to 30, it should start over again. You should start over again by returning the number to what? 0. So how can we do that? We use the if statement. So what are we checking? We want to check if d is what? Equal to what? 30. So if d is equal to 30, then what do we want to do if d is equal to 30? We want to get this initial content. Instead of incrementing it, we want to do what? We want to reduce it back to what? 0. Do you understand the logic here? So if d, that is, if the initial text content is equal to 30, you see I'm using two equal to sign because it might be a string. I haven't passed it as an integer. It might be a string. So this will return true if d is actually equal to 30. But if I should use 3 equal to sign, even if d is equal to 30, it's not going to be true because this is an integer and this d here is a string. Do we get it now? So that's why I should just use double equal to. So I'm checking now if d is equal to 30, then just return it back to 0. And then I want to do something else. I want to add in something called cycle. I want to add something called cycle. So now what I'll do with cycle is that I'll count that I have gone through one cycle. You get it now? So the way we got default, I also got cycle. So what will I do with cycle? I would increment cycle by what? I will increment cycle by 1. I will increment cycle by 1. So which means I will have to also get the initial number of cycle. You understand, right? So variable initial cycle is going to be what? Cycle dot what? Text content. So by default the text content is what? 0. So we are going to get the initial cycle, pass it into an integer, and then add 1 to it, and then change, and then replaces the cycle with that cycle. So for every time this number hits 30, we add 1 to the cycle and we return this one back to 0. So it starts counting again. But if it is not up to 30 yet, see, else do this. Let me recap. So what I did here is that I'm checking, okay, 30 is too much because of our time. Let me just reduce it to like 5, right? So what I'm doing here is that I'm checking if this D The D is the initial number that we are counting here. D is this initial number that we are counting here. So this should be like H4, H5. Maybe like H5. Okay, so this is the initial number. So the initial number, let me give them like a label. So default cycle. So the default number is already 0, but once we start counting and it reaches 5, then it will add that 5 to it will return 8 to 0, and then concludes that we've gone one cycle. So okay, that was not perfect. I just noticed that it's not perfect. So the way to do it is that we first have to actually increase it. Okay, we check if the okay, I think it's correct. Let's just check. So let's start counting. Okay, something is wrong. Something is wrong. So if D is equal to 5, D is not equal to 5. So the error was that, instead of getting 0 alone, we are now getting default colon 0. So I have to remove this. I have to remove this, but then I still need the label. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all in a div. So this is going to be like this now. So cycle, so I have only 0 here. So now let's try this again. So as you can see, it's already counting. The default is already counting, counting. Now it's 5. I should count again. Then it returns 8 to 0 and cycle um, increases to 1. Count. 5 returns back to 0 and cycle turns towards 2. Do we get it now? So this is this is how you can make use of if statement. This is just one of the ways you can make use of if statement. So try to write out some other ways, at least 5 each, of how we can make use of if statement.